so like a delay, but let's go ahead and get started. Thank you very much for coming. So first I'd like to start off thank you very much for coming to this monthly meeting of Gameholics Anonymous. Please give a warm welcome to our new guest. I'm Nye, and I am a gameaholic. I've been 2 years sober, and the last game I played obsessively was Diablo 3. Anybody heard of Diablo 3? Yeah. It's a wonderful game. I spent so much time in it. But then, suddenly, something came out, Fallout 4. The reason I had to jump back into that gaming world was because I waited 7 freaking years to get the fourth installment of this game. I mean, I love the series. I played it when I was a kid, all the way up through last year. But I'm happy to say, in this meeting, that I am now 2 months sober from video games. That is until this thing came out on July 6th. Pokemon Go. Now, I'm getting my hits every night, every morning, even right now. In fact, this image here, this was yesterday morning during the opening general session. And there's a Pokestop right outside of it, and somebody put a lure on it. So anybody who knows Pokemon Go knows that if you put a lure, it attracts Pokemon. So somebody actually went to the effort, so probably something like you, put a lure there, and then so basically the whole entire time I was catching Pokemon. So it's everywhere. So with that, Pokemon Go. Anyone else here who would like to admit that they are a gameaholic, please stand up and tell your story.
Call of Duty, Wii, Pokemon Go, all Wii games.
All Wii games, yes.
We got the headsets, we got to play out and Call of Duty.
It's fun, isn't it? And you sir?
I've been playing Warcraft since it started.
Oh my gosh, you're a WoW person.
Yeah, sorry.
And you're not emaciated, like starving, dying.
No, I think it's usually the opposite effect.
Yeah, I forget to eat sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for admitting your addiction. Now, but all kidding aside, this phenomena, such as Pokemon Go, and all these things, gaming is a part of life now, and we're here to try to figure out what it all means. So here's our agenda for this morning, and we're going to go through cover a lot of ground. First, I want you to understand the gamer. So the reason why this session exists is because I've been speaking about technology and education for quite a number of years. And I would make these jokes about video games and things like that, and everyone just kind of like, crickets in the room, like maybe people will chuckle. I'm like, oh gosh, there's this disconnect that these educators, you guys don't understand this new generation of kids coming up. And I am an obsessive gamer, so what can I do? I want to tell you and get you into my mind so you can better understand your students. So the primary focus of this entire session is to get you to really see through my eyes what is going on so that you can kind of relate to the students. We're going to go through a little brief history of video games, see how it's evolved over time. We're going to talk about video game addiction, which is actually a real thing. So a lot of people think it's just an excuse, but it's real. How this affects education and the culture of gaming. So it's like their entire subculture now. It's like it's a whole entire, like, they have their own language, they have their own talk, they have their own signs and secret handshakes and all that kind of stuff. So, just kind of give you a glimpse of that. And kind of will tell you about my experiences because I'm a gamer, but I gamified a culinary curriculum and tried to make it more interactive and fun, and all the pitfalls and failures, but also the successes at the same time. So we're going to show you mastery. So a little bit about myself first, just to kind of give you some context. I had some disadvantages growing up. First thing is I was made in Taiwan. Laugh, come on! This is early in the morning. I know you haven't had, the coffee has not kicked in yet. But yeah, go ahead. So, but the thing is, I was made in Taiwan, and then I was exported to America at the tender age of 2 with my parents. They came with me too. And the first thing they did was they opened up a Chinese restaurant because what else do Chinese people do when they immigrate to the United States? Open up a restaurant, right? So I grew up in a Chinese restaurant, which if you know the restaurant business, it's very tough. You're barely making ends meet. 9 out of 10 restaurants fail. I mean, fortunately, we were fine, because we're a Chinese restaurant, so we cut a lot of corners. But it was really tough, So I grew up on free and reduced lunch. I actually had to work in the school cafeteria so I could get lunch. Actually, not true, but my parents would give me an allowance, so I would work in the school cafeteria, and I would save that money so I could buy video games. I also had a problem with reading. My first language was Chinese, my second language was English. So I had a hard time in grade school, and I had to go through 2.5 years of speech classes so that I could be able to talk English. And I think those speech teachers did a really good job, right? Yeah. For them, now I can speak. But but I had a lot of problems. I went through high school without reading a single novel because when I'm reading, those words on the page would not go into here. It's like it just goes in and out, and instantly I'm like, I don't know what the heck I did. So I have to read it 3, 4, 5 times or something like that. So there's this really crazy disconnect going on. I have to just take my time, mouth the words. So, and I had this other problem too, which compounded the issue. I was very hyper. I couldn't focus. So so that's part of the problem. I couldn't read. ADHD. So anybody here know anybody with ADHD? Yeah, exactly. Because media, computers, and everything like that, it's completely creating this whole entire new mindset that's distracting. So people can't focus on this one little objective to study and learn. So that was a problem then. So, but I have to say, fortunately, because we were so impoverished, my parents did not have the means to take me to a psychiatrist and put me on medication. So what happened? I had to deal with it. They had to deal with it. Oh gosh, they had to deal with it. And the thing is, dealing with it, like anything else, I learned to embrace it. And because of that, I turned this problem into a superpower. Oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry, I failed math class because of that. But yeah, I turned it into a superpower. So now I have this giant advantage that my peers never had. I had to work through this attention problem and be able to figure out how to focus, but split my focus, but also compound it all at the same time. So these advantages made it so that I have this heightened sense. So I can actually look at the world and be able to compute everything around me and be able to take it all in and react to it. Just like in a video game, if I'm playing a video game, you have all these things coming at you, you've got people coming at you, you've got armies coming at you, and then you have to manage your resources. So I could look at the game and I say, okay, I can do that, and react to it. Or all these bullets are flying at me and I can dodge them. If you watch the movie Matrix, you know how the bad guy is shooting at Neo. So I enter this heightened sense mode where I'm dodging these bullets like this, but because I'm able to subconsciously compute that. So I can take in multi-sensory inputs much better than my peers. I was able to react to things. I could think about things, and biggest examples my peers if you interrupt them during any type of any train of thought, then it completely derails them. Like, they have to focus. That's the only way. But if you're throwing things at me, I can totally catch this, do that, and make it through without any type of interruption. So, like I said, that gravitated me towards video games because it kept my attention. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I love video games. I can make the video games. So I taught myself programming, and then I gamified my first academic subject, culinary arts. Why culinary arts? Well, because I grew up in a Chinese restaurant. So so the biggest thing is I wanted to create something that reached kids like myself. So a friend of mine said, hey, can you help me build this curriculum and make it more interactive? I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do that. So, we are in a generation of instant gratification.
Okay, we're going to stick this in here, and then I'm going to pour in the milk. I hope this works because I didn't bring a change of pants.
Look, I Googled it. It's a fake picture. That's it. No cake for you. Anyone else want to join the no cake club?
She's just kidding, boys and girls. Everyone gets cake.
All right. I love Big Bang Theory. Everyone else, yeah. It's a funny show, like physicists and nerds, geeks doing their everyday thing. But I love this video because it illustrates how kids expect information. They have the answers to the world right in their hands. So if they have a question, they can say, hey Siri, is that a fake picture? And then, oh, did I activate someone else's Siri?
Yeah.
Oh, so we have the same voice pattern. Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
She says that may be beyond my abilities at the moment.
Gosh, I love that. No, but yeah, so so they can ask the question and get their answers immediately. So gone are the days where, if you can remember, you have to physically relocate yourself to a library. And if you're doing some research and you go, okay, I need to look up this book and I have to go to this Dewey Decimal System card catalog, or even worse, let's say you have to do this research paper, so you go into the microfiche bank and you're scanning through this myriads of articles to look for the 1967 article in Time magazine. Gosh, how much work was it to get information at that time? Oh gosh, it was horrible. So now these kids, it's like, I want to know this, boom, I have that. I need to know how to get past this level in video game. Oh, it's all the answers are out there. So they expect the information to be right there in their hands at any moment, at any time when they ask for it. So let me ask this room here. Are there any gamers in here? So let's start with the classic arcade game. Anybody used to go to the classic arcade? You have to go to a bar or a pizza parlor or an arcade. Yeah. So at the time, when the first video games came out, you had to go to play it, which is cool. But then it evolved into the console, like Atari, Super Nintendo, and all that. So anybody here entered into the world of gaming through consoles? All right, great, yeah. So then we kind of go to the next level, which is like the PC gamer. These computers came out, Apple came out, and Microsoft came out with these computers, and then people start building games. So PC gamers in here? Anybody? So
Facebook, does that count?
Facebook games? Well, no, we'll say no for
Okay.
we'll get classic. And then and then gaming became portable. So Nintendo came out with the Game Boy, and then all of a sudden, these kids can actually walk around and play these video games on these little electronic devices. I'm not talking about prior to that, remember the football game or the baseball game where you have these little dots moving around the screen, which is primitive gaming. But yeah, so anybody entered the world through portable gaming? Anybody? Yeah, portable gaming, and then smartphones came out. Now it's become ubiquitous. So these phones are now our gaming devices, and everybody has it. So it's in everyone's pocket. So smartphone gamers, anyone here? Yeah. So basically, gaming can be done by anybody now. No matter age, religion, gender, it's everywhere. And any solitaire players here? All right, and so, solitaire, you're a gamer. So, a brief history of video games. It all started with this. Pong. And the thing is, when this came out, it's so simple. A little dot moving across, and we got these two things moving up and down. But it fascinated us as humans, because we never had the ability to manipulate electronic images like that and actually have something happen. Everything was always physical and tangible. So we looked at that, it's like, oh wow, it's crazy. And people played that obsessively because it just fascinated our minds. And then over the years, it got more complicated, through Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Super Mario. So over the years, as we're evolving the gaming world, more and more complexities, we're challenging our ability, our dexterity, and our mental cognition. We got adventures like Zelda, and then we got fighters coming out, so that now you're competing against each other to see who is superior in your reactions. And then Sonic, anyone watched or played Sonic, watch your kids play Sonic or something like that? When that came out, I was like, not me, but yeah, it's like, wow, you got this hedgehog running at a zillion miles per hour, doing all these things, jumping around. It's like, how do these kids figure out what to do with all that information? And they do. It's part of that whole entire mental training. And then, as we all know, Pokemon Go came out. And it's crazy because so many people played this game and jumped on the bandwagon. And in fact, when I wrote this proposal, the sessions proposal, Pokemon Go was just a kind of like a future thought. It's like we knew it was coming out. The proposals were due March, I think. So that's 3 months prior to Pokemon coming out. But it's just a worldwide phenomenon that so many people jumped on board and played this game. And so you get to catch these little Pokemon, and they would go around and do it. In fact, somebody, funny thing, was playing Pokemon while his wife was giving birth. Poor guy. But the thing is, it's so fascinated us. We were so curious about this game that we obsessively play it. And I don't know what's going on with it right now, but if you post it on Twitter, I don't think you can see that. So so everyone was going crazy over Pokemon. Check this video out. This is at some park, and then somebody spotted, I believe it was a Squirtle. So it's like, there's a Squirtle. And then so all of a sudden it's just crazy, So now, ever since it came out, you go to your regular park, normally at night it's dead, right? But if you go now, there's people out and about, not this much, but it's just crazy. So so some of the crazy headlines that came out, Pokemon Go is forcing people to get out and move around. So this is actually a really cool thing. Augmented reality like this, it actually gets people out from the living room into the real world. Nintendo shares are up. The has turned so any place that has monuments or any kind of art is now hunting grounds. So so everyone's getting out to DC. So it's really cool because before it came out, I wouldn't really go and check out these areas, but now I'm like, oh, there's this area that has all these different Pokestops. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna check it out. I'm like, oh, cool, I never knew that was here before. So it's getting people out there. It's really cool. So it's actually helped commerce. So there was this ice cream shop in Washington State that was on the brink of closing because nobody was around. Nobody cared to go in that area. But then all of a sudden, as guy was like, there's 2 people there, and there's like 4 people, and then the next day there's a dozen people, like, mingling about, and then all of a sudden they started coming over and buying his ice cream, and now he's like, inundated with customers because they're out playing, and then they're in that area, so it's getting people out. It's actually getting like parents and children together, because so the children are out there playing, and they say, hey, I want to play this game, and then parents go out with them, and they go walk around the park or whatever. It's really crazy. Yeah, and this happened early on. So guy was playing Pokemon and he got stabbed, and he kept playing. So that kind of gets you into that whole mindset. It's like these gamers are so focused on these games that a guy got stabbed, and to him it's like, oh, this is just a minor inconvenience. And and good things came from it as well. Like there were 2 former Marines who were playing Pokemon, and they actually helped catch a murder suspect. So an attempted murder suspect. So they were just like kind of like at the right place at the right time, and they kind of intervened. Obviously, you probably heard in the headlines that bad things have happened, like distracted driving, kids getting lured into the wrong areas and things like that. So there's good and bad, but it's really changed the gaming world. So let's look at this. Pokemon came out 20 years ago as a horrible game and cartoon. So why are people so passionate about it? Well, they had the game and they had the cartoon. So they kind of had this they already created this connection. And when this came out, everyone had to jump on it. They had such a big reach. They also had trading cards, and then some movies came out, and then more games. So this is like a game that's been around for quite a while. So it's not something new. But you think about it this way. This is a theory of mine, that the entertainment that we take in as kids really affect the way that we want to learn. So if you look here on our left, we have these classic cartoon characters. You got Felix, Cat, Mickey Mouse, and whatnot. So when you were kids, and your parents wanted you to be quiet or stay focused or something like that, or kind of get out of the way, so they would put you in front of the television, and you would watch these cartoons. And it worked because it's entertaining, they have fun stories, you laughed, cried with them, and eventually you started building emotional attachments to these characters. Like so you go to Disneyland, you go to the rides, you buy Mickey Mouse hats, and things like that. So as you're watching these stories, in front of the television, you're learning. Okay, this is how I learn. I'm sitting in front of television, the information's coming at me, and I'm fine with that. So then you go to school, and you're sitting in these nice neat rows, the teacher's in front of you talking at you, and you're like, okay, this is how I was taught to take information, and I'm okay with that. So that worked for dozens of years. Then the video game console came out. Things changed. So instead of watching television, now you're controlling these avatars. So you're making decisions as to what you're going to do with these characters now. How fast are you going to take Sonic? Mario. Anybody play Mario here? Yeah, Mario. Like Mario is ingrained in our lives so strongly, and so is Pokemon. But the thing is, so you're making these decisions. You're like, okay, do I run and jump into the pit and die, or do I, run, kick the Koopa, make it to the end, save Princess Peach, defeat Bowser? So you form these emotional attachments to these avatars and characters. And you're making decisions, and you're trying to get through the level as best as possible. Then you go to school, and then you got the teacher standing in front of you, and they're talking at you. You're like, Where's my control? I can't make any decisions. And then a disconnect happens, and then you shut down, like what I did in math class. So the thing is, it's all about decisions and control. And these kids are being trained that, the information that I'm getting is through my direct interaction. And we're not giving this a chance to these kids that interaction. So we have to so we are trying, we're doing active learning, we're doing project-based learning and things like that. But this mentality is going to become a major problem coming up as these kids who are gamers starting at the early age of 2. So I have this really cool video that poses, what if we were in a world where books came after video games? And this is from a YouTuber called Vsauce, and he does some really cool education videos. Oops.
In the 1990s, Douglas Rushkoff coined the term screenagers to describe a generation that for the first time ever was growing up to think that images on screens weren't just something to passively stare at, but instead were something to be manipulated. Well, today, it's even more extreme. The tools and connectivity provided by the web allow us to think of images on screens not just as things to manipulate, but as things to project our own identities onto. Not everyone who does this is a professional storyteller, or acclaimed poet, or coherent. But content aside, hyperlinked webs of human expression are incredibly rich environments, and they exercise the brain. More so than books? Well, for the sake of argument, let's read from Everything Bad is Good for You, a book by Stephen Johnson. Now, in this passage, he imagines a world in which books were invented after video games and the World Wide Web. Kids everywhere are starting to read these newfangled books, and teachers and parents are concerned. He imagines they might say something like this. Perhaps the most dangerous property of these books is the fact that they follow a fixed linear path. You can't control their narratives in any fashion. You simply sit back and have the story dictated to you. For those of us raised on interactive narratives, this property may seem astonishing. Why would anyone want to embark on an adventure utterly choreographed by another person? But today's generation embarks on such adventures millions of times a day. Reading is not an active participatory process, it's a submissive one. The book readers of the younger generation are learning to follow the plot instead of learning to lead. Interesting.
So, I love that video. It's just kind of puts it into perspective, like these kids who are so used to these choices. Yeah, anybody read those Choose Your Adventure books back in the day? Yeah, it's so much fun. You go to page 78, you die. Go to page 97, you die. Well, actually, that happens a lot. You step on a worm, you die. But the thing is, so these interactive choices, and then we're trying to force them down this linear path. It needs to be much more dynamic. So, onto video game addiction. I just want to point out that this is a real problem. I'm a problem. Anyone else addicted here? And wow, yeah, wow. World of Warcraft. It's a widespread epidemic. Crazy, So in a recent survey, 97% of youth from the ages of 2 through 17 said that they played video games. They touched that crack. That represents 64 million kids in the United States. So I wonder what about the 3% that didn't? Maybe they lied. And they found out that the ages of 2 through 5 is the fastest growing segment. Now, why is that? If you think 2 through 5, how can they play video games? Well, it's because of these things. Touch-enabled devices is a natural human expression. So before video games, you had to manipulate control. So you had to figure out apply controls through dexterity, whether it be through a computer interface or a joystick and things like that. But touch, it's natural. You manipulate the world through touch. And kids as young as 2 can pick up a smartphone and start using it, tweet something, Snapchat, do some selfies. It's just crazy how this technology is so easy to adopt. It's like they're born with it. But you gotta think of it, our minds, our psychology accepts it because of the whole touch technology. And China is so bad off that they actually set up boot camps, like militaristic boot camps, where a kid who is addicted to, they call it internet boot camps, but they're addicted to gaming, where they would go days and days with miss school and things like that. The parents would send them to this 2-week boot camp, set up at like a militaristic style, and they're cut off from the internet. It's just utterly crazy. Now, this is a slide with a whole lot of words. We're not going to read it because, as you know, when you're doing presentations, you don't put a lot of words on there. But I want to focus on this one sentence from Peter Diamandis in the book Abundance. And, that reminds me, I need to press this out because I left that in there so that you would have that slide. So I'm going to, if you don't mind putting your email address down, I will email you the PowerPoint. But anyway, if we really want to prepare our children for the future, then learning needs to become addictive. So, sorry, I didn't push it far enough for you. It's necessary. So why is it so addicting? Well, first off, it's a temporary escape. It creates a social environment, but you're also anonymous, so you can be whatever or whoever you want. Now, in education, we can't really take, we can take into account, we can't really take into account the first one. We can't do anything much about that because we're not trying to have them escape. But we have some social aspects that we can take advantage of. But the bottom two is something that we can really tap into. Video games presents a challenge, and there's a goal in mind. So they know what they want to get to and how to get there. And they also see, this is the biggest thing, constant measurable growth. So for a video gamer, you're inundated with feedback, like how well you did a level, how many stars you got on Angry Birds, what percentage of the level you completed, how fast you completed. You got all these stats, and we are addicted to these stats because we look at it and go, okay, I can do better, I can do better, I can do better, or I did all right, or these are the achievements that are available for me to get and move on. Oh, cool. I put that up there because I forget sometimes. So, and this addiction is not going to go away because there's money to be made from this addiction. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, more so than the movie industry. So we think the movie industry is huge. The video game industry surpasses it tenfold. In fact, there was a Super Bowl ad that came out in 2015 of a mobile game. So you think Super Bowl ads, you think cars, right? You think beer, you think movie trailers, TurboTax, whatever. But you never expected to see a video game advertised at the Super Bowl. But this free game called Clash of Clans was advertised during that game. I was like, wow, a mobile game that's completely free to play. So you download it, you don't have to pay any money to play it. But the reason why they did that is because they make a lot of money. They make $1.1 million. No, actually, that's not a lot. But when you think about it, that's a day for this game that's completely free, and they make that much money a day on a game. So, gaming will never go away because there's money to be made. So they are an addiction. So let's bring it back. My job here is to give you empathy. Is to help you understand these kids who are growing up, because the more you know about their mindset from when they're kids to when they're growing up and then into their adult lives, the better you are. Yes. Remember that? Because the more you know.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Yeah, I prefer a lot of these little video clips because, well, it helps keep my attention. Knowing is half the battle. So now you know a little bit more. In fact, if you want to know a lot more, read this book. This is a young adult book called Ready Player One. It was like one of the best sci-fi fantasy books in 2012. And now Steven Spielberg is actually making a movie of this. Basically, what it is, it's like this, world where everyone's plugged in, and then people are in this video game world, and there's like this adventure, and it's chock full of 80s pop culture references. So if you grew up in the 80s, you'll absolutely love it. But this will get you kind of like a glimpse into the deepest glimpse into the mindset of the gamer and why we're so obsessed. So I want you to understand their language a little bit. So anybody know what this word is? Grinding. All right. So what is grinding?
Going through something very tedious and routine to gain levels or resources.
Yeah. Yeah. So grinding. This is actually one of the primary components of video games. The reason why is because when people are developing video games, they can only put so much content, but they have to extend the hours of play so that you can feel like you got your money's worth. So grinding is basically the act of doing something repetitive over and over again to gain money, experience points, whatever. Usually it's very mundane, and a lot of times it's very boring. Like if I play Final Fantasy, I'm just like walking around, kill a monster, walk around, kill a monster, walk around, kill a monster. And a lot of times I'm like, this is not fun, but I'm still doing it anyway. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd be like, fall asleep in the middle of playing because I'm grinding. So the thing is, these kids are being taught that doing repetitive, mundane tasks allows them to get a minor accomplishment for a greater goal. So I like to use the example, I played this online game a long time ago, and I wanted to improve my fishing skill. So what I had to do is I would go to a water area, I would hit a button, and I would fish. Fail, fish. Fail, fish. Fail. Oh gosh, this is so much fun. I love fishing. Success! Woo! All right, reward. I got 1 experience point. And I would do that for hours. And then, because my goal is to get to level 5 fishing so that I could buy the golden rod, so then I would have the ability to catch the rainbow trout. So that when I catch the rainbow trout, I could go to the merchant and trade it in for the staff of warding, which then will allow me to be able to do something else. So my goal is to get to that, but I had to go through all this mundane stuff to get there so that I could have that achievement. Similar to that, farming, which is basically a bigger version of grinding. So grinding is usually like you're doing one repetitive task over again. Farming, you're actually, let's say you're in a gaming level, and you go through that level once, you collect all the loot and things like that. Then you go back and you do it over again, and you do it over again. So you go through this hour routine, going through a level, sometimes shorter, just so that you could collect more and more stuff. And you've already played that level once, so it's like, what's new? Well, it's so that I could get more stuff. So they go through that level over again. So they're repeating that task over and over again so they can get more, so they can get more, so they can get more. Now, speedrun is a really interesting phenomenon. So let's say I'm playing Mario, and I make it through a level in 3 minutes and 28 seconds. I'm like, great. Then I look at the leaderboard, and that level, that my friend did it in 3 minutes and 26 seconds. I'm like, how'd you do that? So then I would play that level over and over again, so that I could beat his score. Even though I've done a really great job at it, I want to do it again. I want to do it again because I want to beat my friend or on my leaderboard. So through that process, going through it, I learned a little trick here, a a tiny little bit there just to shave off a few seconds. So I'm doing this so I can master that level and beat my friends. So we're doing it over and over and over again. Raid. Anyone ever heard of your kid talk about I need to go on a raid? So basically a raid is an online term which means that they have a set time schedule with a number of other people to go and hit a dungeon or a cave or something like that. So the aspect of this is, there's usually a group of people, like 4 or 5, and they all have pre-assigned tasks. So in order to do this raid, they would go and like one person would be a warrior, one person would be a mage, and a cleric, and maybe a dwarf. And they all have specialties, so each person can bring something to the table. So like the mage would have to go and get the staff of warding, so they would spend like hours fishing so they could get that, and then the fighter would get the lightning sword of thunder and do that. So they would get together at a set time and they would go and attack a dungeon. And to be successful, they would have to coordinate and do it simultaneously and make it through. So a lot of planning is involved in a raid. And the last one is a 100%er. Now, there are some kids, now this is like the worst case, where they want to get 100% of the game. So as a game developer, you make a game and you have this this story that gets to the end. But if somebody finishes it, they maybe completed 50% of the game. But even though they finished it, it's 50% because there's all these hidden stuff found all throughout the game. They have to do some sort of task that's unique to that game. If you wanted to get the achievement, the 360 ollie inverted loop with a twist on a grind. It's like a skateboard game. Yeah. So they have to do these really complicated tasks, and these tasks are not easy. So they have to do it once, twice, 3 times, maybe a dozen or 100 times to get that, because they want to complete 100% of the challenges that was set to them by the game developers. So so I'm going to show you this. These simple little things are affecting our mindsets because we're being taught we need to do things repetitively to get these goals over and over again. In education, what do we call that? Mediation. Because we're catering to the accelerated mind. Because the way I think about it is this way. I go through a level. I'm getting probably 20% of that level. So maybe the first time I get through, I do so well. And then I do it again, and I learn a bit more, and I learn a bit more. So through multiple passes, I'm getting through this level, and I'm getting better and better and better. So, but the thing is, the accelerated mind is we're giving the students this information at a given pace. And this pace is way, way too slow. So it's you're driving a car at 50 miles per hour at first gear. What happens? You're going to stall. Or not, sorry, you're right. At let's say 25 miles per hour at 5th gear. I got the whole analogy reversed. So the thing is, you're driving slowly, and you're in the wrong gear. And what happens? This information is not coming to you at the rate that you want it. So you want the information fast, you want it furious, but you also want to do it over and over again. So through the repetition aspect, you pick up a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. Because our minds are just crazy fast, and if we tell them, slow down, focus. Okay, sorry. No, but the thing is, we have an accelerated mind. So I want you to understand, let's check on time, some gaming genres. Oh, we only have 1 minute left. Are you guys having fun? Yeah. So let's look at this. I'm going to highlight 2, and then the slide will have a lot more information. So basically, I get it. For first thing is first-person shooter, which is one of the most popular game genres, Call of Duty, right? So games like this are called Halo, Medal of Honor, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, Overwatch. Nobody plays Overwatch here. So you think about these games personality types. These kids might be aggressive, they might be violent, they might be bullying, vindictive. I play first-person shooters. I'm not like that. But the thing is, like, it's a possibility. But let's look at the flip side of things. These kids who play these games are very perceptive. They're team players. They have to have fast reactions because they can adapt to the environment. They have to, be able to spot things and react and move. Like, I was playing Rainbow Six, and I'm playing these players. Like, how the heck did they shoot me? It's like crazy because they're able to go like instantly. It's like I don't know how that happens, but they have to be adapted to the environment. So the kids who play these games, they have to acquire these skills to be good. Now let's look at this other one, MMORPG, which stands for Massively Multiplayer Online Role-Play Game. Like, World of Warcraft is the prime example of that. Now, the other games are like, Diablo 2, Star Wars Old Republic, and even Eve, which is like this space economic simulator, which I played as well. But the thing is, you have this online aspect. So these kids, they can be reclusive, passive, and antisocial because they're sitting in front of a computer or a console. They're constantly doing this game, which has endless hours of play. There's no end to it. But then, you think about it. These kids, they have to be team players. They have to work together to be able to accomplish a goal. You have to have a really strong understanding of economics because you pick up these items in these games and you have an inherent value, and then you can sell it to other players or you can sell it on a marketplace. So they say, okay, this status rewarding is worth 7,000 gold, and then they go, okay, it's totally worth it. I'm going to get it and I'm going to sell it. So because then with 7,000 gold, then I can buy this armor, plating, things like that. They have to be goal oriented. So when they're leveling up through this game, they have to know this is my objective and this is the path I have to do to get there. They're digitally social. They are really strong in making decisions, and they have to plan throughout these games. So other genres: action adventure, fighter, RPG, simulations, and time wasters. So these are all different games. Yeah, time wasters. I love that. Candy Crush, KJ, things like that. And then we have Minecraft, which is a unique category on itself, which we're still trying to figure out what that really means because kids are obsessed with this open sandbox that is kind of like a digital version of Legos. But it's really cool to see how they're expanding their creativity. And augmented reality with Pokemon Go. So I'm going to leave you with this last video here.
Emma. 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 Emma.
So I'd like to thank you all for coming to this morning session, and I hope you got a little tidbit about my crazy world. And honestly, I could spend an hour and a half talking about this, and there's so much more. So this is kind of like a little primer on the subject. Maybe I should do a 90-minute session next year, which would be awesome. So where's the sign-up sheet? Everyone got their names and emails on the sign-up sheet. Great. Thank you very much. So I'll send you these PowerPoint slides and some other information to articles about gamers and their crazy world and how it affects education. But really, understand me, and I hope you understand your kids better. Thank you very much.
You must have had the same speech therapist.
Really? Oh, sure.
Me either. I've never had a therapist. 5 minutes drive. Many times to do it on my phone. It's not going to work.
It's a little crazy. Yeah, they're just Yes. I'll probably get it out later next week. Thank you very much.
So it's nice.